Good morning, government students. I am making this short video so that you can have some instruction on how to write the Unit 3 Checks and Balances essay. In this particular unit, you learn about the three branches of our government and how they check and balance each other. We have a separation of powers in our country, which means that we have more than one branch of government. And one of the unit essays is on writing how, identifying the different branches and how they check and balance each other. So I'm thinking this will be around a 15-minute video, and I will walk you through the essay topic and how to organize your essay. After watching this video, you should come out with a clear plan of attack on what you're going to write, and hopefully this will make this essay topic quite easy for you. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the next slide, and I'll just start us through this. If you are watching this so you can write your essay, it's a good idea to have a piece of paper handy or a Word doc minimized, and there will be a couple places where you want to write notes here. Okay, so before I get to the essay topic, I just want to give you a really brief background on separation of power. The dude pictured in the lower right-hand corner is a guy named Baron von Montesquieu. He lived in 18th century France. I refer to him sometimes as the founding father who wasn't there the day they signed the Constitution, and that's true of several people. Montesquieu, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I'll even give old Thomas Hobbes some credit for how our government came out. So anyway, Montesquieu was a big fan of classic Greek and Roman history, and he was especially a big fan of the Roman government, and he wrote at length about it, and he came up with this idea that we would later call the separation of powers. And the Romans had three branches of government. They had an executive branch, which they would have called the consul. They had a legislative branch, which they called the Senate, and then they didn't have a judicial branch. Instead, they had the people. In Roman times, the senators would write the laws, and the people themselves got to vote directly on them, at least in the early days. And so by the time Montesquieu came along, they changed the branches somewhat, and when writing about France had a pretty well-developed judicial system. And so Montesquieu said the best way to have a government would be to have an executive branch, that is the people that enforce the laws. You have a legislative branch, the people who create the laws, and then you have a judicial branch, the people who judge the constitutionality of the laws, or how well the laws, whether they're legal or not. And ultimately, his writings came to influence the founding fathers, and when they wrote the Constitution and we created our government, we created this three-branch system. And you can see, and of course in our government, the legislative branch is represented by the Congress, and we have a bicameral legislature, which means that we've got two houses, House of Representatives and the Senate. Our executive branch is represented by our president and the federal bureaucracy, which are the cabinets, the departments in our Department of Education, Department of Commerce, and all of that kind of stuff, Bureau of the Interior. And so that represents the executive branch. They're the ones who execute the laws. That's why they get the name executive. And then we have the judicial branch, which is represented by our court system. And of course, the top of that court system is the Supreme Court. And so with that, each of these branches is meant to balance the others. Like the Romans, we do not put all power in one hands. And I want you to notice there's three branches here, and it's not by accident that we have an odd number. And that is, if one branch is acting very badly, the idea would be the other two branches would rein that branch in by kind of preventing some of its actions. And of course, each of these branches have certain powers over the other branch that you can see in here, and any other chart that if you go to any internet search and you type balance of power, checks and balances, you're going to see some of the things that they can do to each other that you can see in this. So that's our system, and basically what you're going to be doing in this essay is writing about that system and how it works. Now let's move to the actual topic itself. The United States, as we know it, was born on March 4, 1789, after the U.S. Constitution had been ratified or voted in by all 13 colonies. It had taken months to draft the Constitution. The battle over whether to ratify or not had been fierce, but in 1789 a kind of miracle had happened. A confederation of fiercely independent colonies had by their own will abandoned their individual sovereignty and elected to become members of a single and unified nation, otherwise known as America. The colonies had only done this only because the U.S. Constitution creatively allowed individual states to share power with the national government. By the way, that is known as federalism. We'll talk a lot more about that in Semester B. And this national government was designed to limit itself through a system of checks and balances on its power. In a 5-paragraph essay of 600 or more words, describe the responsibilities of the 3 branches of U.S. government and explain how each branch checks and balances the other branches. So there's our topic. Now, if you are making notes, the next slide is the first place that you're going to make a note. When you're given an essay topic, the first step to turning that topic into an essay is turning the topic into a question with a question mark. I always put the actual question or the actual prompt at the very bottom in bold to help you out so you can see what it is. The other stuff is preamble, gives you some information that ultimately might help you in your essay, but it's not exactly what you're answering. So for this particular essay, what you have to write about is in bold. In a 5-paragraph essay of 600 or more words, describe the responsibilities of the 3 branches of U.S. government and explain how each branch checks and balances the other branches. Now, it's important to turn the topic into a question with a question mark for 2 reasons. First of all, it clarifies what you're going to be writing about. So when you look at this topic, the question that you're actually being asked here, if you had to rewrite it with a question mark, is this: what are the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government, and how does each branch check and balance the other branches? This clarifies, okay, I know I'm going to have to write an essay about the 3 branches and how they check and balance each other. That's what I'm going to be writing about. The other reason it's important to turn the topic into a question with a question mark is because the specific answer to that question, the place where it is answered, that becomes your thesis statement. You have to actually answer that question with a very specific sentence that goes at the bottom of your intro paragraph. And that thesis statement, the other reason why it's important to turn this into a question with a question mark is you can test your thesis statement against this question. If someone were to ask you, what are the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government and how does each branch check and balance the other branches? If you were to answer, donkeys live a long time, no one's ever seen a dead donkey, they would look at you they would think you're crazy because you didn't answer the question. Now, if you answered in a different way, if you said the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government are, or if you said there are 3 branches of the U.S. government and their responsibility is, and they check and balance each other by, now you know you have an answer. So in other words, when you turn this into a question with a question mark, you can compare this to your thesis statement, and if they go together, you've got a good thesis statement. So that's why you do this. Now, if you're writing notes here, the first note you want to write is the question with the question mark to clarify what you're going to be doing in your essay. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, now when you look at the question as it's written out, you'll realize that your essay has to do 2 things. In this essay, you're going to have to identify the responsibility or powers of each branch of our government. Remember, we have 3 branches, the legislative, executive, and judicial. So basically, you're going to be explaining to the reader what those branches do. Like, for example, the legislative branch. It makes laws. It does some other stuff too, but that's its main responsibility. And you can get that information from Wikipedia. I provided several links in the essay that will help you with that. And then the second thing that you're going to have to do is explain how each branch checks and balances the other branches. The Constitution wrote in certain things that allowed each branch to check and balance the other branches. Each branch has certain powers over the other branches. So remember as you write this essay that you have to do both of those things. If you just do one and not the other, your essay is partially wrong. Okay, step 2, organization. I've been teaching essays a lot of years, and one of the things that I've realized about teaching essays is if you can map out your essay, be able to provide a topic for each paragraph, you're 80% home. And really what that equals to is if you can provide a topic for each body paragraph, you're 80% home. Why do I say body paragraph instead of each paragraph? Well, within any multi-paragraph essay, you automatically know 2 paragraphs right away. If you're writing an essay, all essays have an intro, body, and conclusion. 60% of the essay is body, maybe even 75%. But basically, you automatically know when you're writing an essay, 1 paragraph is going to be the intro, 1 is going to be the conclusion. So then all that it comes down to is, what am I going to put in my body? If you're being told that it's a 5-paragraph essay, you also know that you're going to have 3 body paragraphs. So if you can map that out, you're ready to go. It makes writing the essay so much easier, and it makes it so much quicker. Here's an example. Write a 5-paragraph essay describing the political, economic, and social causes of the U.S. Revolution. So when I get that essay topic, I go, okay, 5-paragraph essay, intro, body. I know I'm going to have 3 body paragraphs, and I've got to, within my 3 body paragraphs, I'm going to have to describe the political, economic, and social causes of the U.S. Revolution. Oh, wow, that's 3 things, and I've got 3 body paragraphs. Hey, I know what I'm going to do. My first body paragraph, I'm going to explain the political causes of the U.S. Revolution. And my second body paragraph, the economic, and my third, the social causes. And if you can do that, it makes writing your essay so much easier. Now, what about our particular essay? Now, if you remember, we have 3 branches of government. We have the legislative, executive, and judicial. If you remember also, this has to be a 5-paragraph essay, and a 5-paragraph essay has 3 body paragraphs. Maybe when I write this essay, I could use the 3 branches of our government as my 3 body paragraphs. Remember, I'm writing an essay. What are the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government? How does each branch check and balance the other branches? Now, when I go to write out my essay map, here's what it looks like. Intro paragraph, main point 1, which is also otherwise known as body paragraph 1, that will be the legislative branch. Main point 2, or body para 2, executive branch. Main point 3, or body para 3, judicial branch, and then a conclusion. Again, if you're writing notes, this is the place where you pause the film and you write essay map and write out what you see on the right here. Actually, probably everything as you see here is a great thing. You've already written the question, so underneath it you write this. Now again, you don't have to do this, but what I've found over the years is if you have a map like this, it really reduces your time. And I know I'm not going to talk about the legislative branch in the judicial para unless I'm talking about the judicial branch's checks on the legislative branch. It just helps me organize my information here. This makes writing your essay go so much faster. It is worth doing this because it will help you out. Okay, moving to the next slide. In order to do body paras and topic sentences, ask the thesis question to specifically fit the category. So what that means is, you know how we turn the essay prompt into a question with a question mark? When we go to do our body paragraphs, each topic sentence in our body paragraph, which is like a mini thesis statement for that particular body paragraph, it's going to answer that essay question in a topic-specific way. Also, another way to look at the topic sentence, your first sentence of your body paragraph, it is also, like the thesis of your essay, it is a 1-sentence summary of everything in that body paragraph. So in a way, not only does our topic sentence answer the topic question in a body-specific in a specific way, also our entire body paragraph is going to answer that. So take a look at main point 1. Remember, our question was, what are the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government? How does each branch check and balance the other? So what I do is I rewrite that in a legislative specific way. What are the responsibilities of the legislative branch, and how does it check and balance the other branches? When I get to topic 2, I write, what are the responsibilities of the executive branch? How does it check and balance? And I do the same thing for topic 3 on judicial. You will notice that this is the same question you're asking throughout your entire essay, but what you're doing is you're just limiting yourself to one thing here. In a general way, your entire body paragraph on the legislative branch is going to answer that question. But specifically, you will answer it in the topic sentence. So that's another way to look at your body paragraph. Let's go again to body paragraph detail here. Each body para must address the topic question, must be about 6 to 8 sentences long. That's a good paragraph. If you're going to write a 600-word essay, this is where you're going to need to be. So remember that our main question is, what are the responsibilities of each branch of the U.S. government? How does each branch check and balance the other? Each body paragraph must do 2 things. Must explain and summarize the responsibilities of the branch that is its topic, And then it was actually, maybe I should, instead of saying explain and summarize, I probably should have wrote describe and summarize. That's a better way to put that. And then the second part is explain how this branch functions to provide checks and balances to the system. If your, let's say your body paragraph is 7 sentences long, one sentence is the topic sentence, and you've got to do two things, and you've got to do it in 6 sentences, then it goes to reason that in 3 or 4 sentences you're going to describe and summarize the responsibilities of that branch. So for example, in my legislative branch body paragraph, the first 3 to 4 sentences I'm going to describe and summarize the responsibilities of the legislative branch. What does that branch do? What's it made up of? I'm going to explain what Congress does and how it's structured. The next thing that I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to do that in 3 or 4 sentences too, is then I'm going to explain how Congress and how the legislative branch provides checks and balances to the system. You notice I keep mentioning these numbers, 7 sentences, 3 sentences, whatever. Well, often one of the mistakes in an essay is you make one of the body paragraphs too short. Maybe 2 look almost identical to each other in length, and then one is like 3 sentences short. The reason it's good to count is if I only have 2 sentences of explanation on how that branch checks and balances the others, then what I have to do is I have to increase the information on its responsibilities. In other words, you have to fill that out. And so if you can't explain very much, then you need to bring in more information. Or vice versa. If you don't have that much information, start adding explanation. Generally in an essay, in your body paragraphs, you have information and analysis. The information comes from sources like Wikipedia, that's the facts, and the explanation comes from your brain. That's where you're just explaining things. And so remember to do that. You've got to do those 2 things in each body paragraph. We are almost done here. Within your intro and conclusion, you also have to do 2 things. The intro has to introduce your readers to the topic. Now, in this particular essay, the topic is checks and balances, which also means separation of powers. So basically, what you want to do in your intro is you want to introduce this idea of separation of powers. This is literally like a definition: who, what, where, and when. Where did we get this idea? What had happened? And then by the end of your intro paragraph, you want to provide your thesis, and that is what responsibilities. So for example, in your intro, you're going to be introducing the 3 branches of our government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. And then towards the end of that intro paragraph, you're going to provide the thesis, which answers the question, what are the responsibilities and how do they check and balance each other? Not a detailed answer, because that goes in the body paragraph, but you have to do that. Now, the conclusion has to do 2 things. It reminds readers what the topic was, and it restates or reminds readers what the thesis was. Remember, your intro and conclusion look a lot alike. Usually conclusion's a little shorter version of your intro, and it's kind of like a recap of what you did. So basically, that's everything in a nutshell. Just one last reminder. Here's your last look at your essay map. You've got to have your intro paragraph, introduce the separation of powers, provide thesis. Then you got to have your 3 body paragraphs that match the different branches of our government. Then you have a conclusion. So I'm hoping that this essay video will help you. And if you need more help, please feel free to give me a call, and I'm happy to work with you one-on-one on this. Thank you for watching my little video. I'm all done now. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.